Okay, this is Initial D Street Stage on the PSP. So this was a game that I discussed yesterday in my birthday video. So this was a game that my wife bought me, and it's a Japanese import. It's, well, I've discussed before, it's what they call a toge game, which is a Japanese mountain drifting game. And Initial D is based on a series of comics, but the way I got into this was there was a game at the Scarborough Seafront called Initial D. I think it was the arcade stage. And I really got into it, and I wanted a home version of this, and unfortunately they never released it in the UK. Initial D is quite a strange one because Tokyo Pop did release the manga comics, but there was never anything else, so there were no games, and the anime never came out, and eventually Tokyo Pop lost the license, so there's nothing out in the UK now, which is a bit of a shame. But this is a game I've wanted for years, and I finally came across the PSP version, and I realised, oh, there's no region encoding on the PSP, so, well, here we are. I might try and get hold of the PS3 one as well, because I didn't realise that the PS3 wasn't, well, it is region encoded, but most games don't use it, so I'll try and get hold of that. But I'm really impressed with this. It plays exactly like the arcade game, and the thing that really attracted me to the game was, well, partially the novelty, because I'd never really played a game like this before, and as you can probably tell, I've had a lot of practice. The later levels I'm not that good at, but the earlier ones I know these tracks really well. And what you used to do was you'd go, to the arcade machine, and you'd get like a little save card. So it was like a little, the ones that they print when you go on things like Metro Underground systems, these very flaky, flimsy cards that let you save a little bit of data on. It was one of those. And so the idea was you could race through the game and upgrade your car and save your status, and I thought that was such a cool idea. But this game really introduced me to the idea of these toge drifting games, where, well, they're not exactly like Ridge Racer, but I suppose the closest game is Sega Rally, perhaps the way that this plays. And, oops, hit the wall, pay attention. And this game is made by Sega, so it's probably a good bet that it was developed by the same team that did Sega Rally, although I may be wrong. So the way that the game works is that you've got two modes of play, really. You've got one going up the hill and one going down the hill, and the first couple of tracks are circuits, so you can just go round and round, but the later ones are much longer tracks, and you either go all the way up or all the way down. Okay, this is one of the downhill stages, so typically in the daytime you're going up and in the nighttime you're going down, but the nighttime ones are significantly harder than the daytime ones. And I think these are a lot more fun in a way, because it's not about power, it's how to not crash like that. Oh, blimey. I think the hardest thing is really knowing not when to brake, but perhaps where you can avoid braking, because your opponent is, I wouldn't say the perfect, but the AI is pretty good. So it's driving, well, a lot better than I am. Oh, blimey. I'm holding the PSP at a slight angle, so I've got the camera well, almost above my head, and I'm arcing my back to try and hold the PSP in one place, and it makes it a lot harder. I do like the drifting on this. You do feel more or less in control. I think it's slightly better with the real wheel in the arcades, but I think with the PSP the analog stick doesn't really do it, because there's not really enough, well, analogness between not turning and turning fully, and you don't have time to react in this game, so you're either turning as hard as you can, or just tapping it, and I think the D-pad works a lot better. Oh, blimey, this feels like the snow today. We've had a lot of snow near Manchester, so I had to ditch my car last night. So it was my birthday last night, so I went for a curry with my wife, and when we came back, the snow came down and it was awful, and yeah, it felt a little bit like this. I think the only difference is, with this, when you turn left, the car goes left, or right, it goes right, whereas in real snow, you get weird physics effects, like you turn the wheel right and you go anti-clockwise, which is just bizarre. And it felt a bit like this. I think the only difference is if you hit something in this, it's not really a problem, whereas in a real car, if you tend to whack into other people's cars, they tend not to like it too much. Fortunately, I didn't. Oh, blimey. I don't think I'm going to win this one somehow. Oh, dear. Oh, I thought I got away with that corner, but I didn't. The weird thing with this game, and I think it's a good thing, is that after you finish the race, you're really quite tired. I mean, mentally and physically, and I think that's a good sign. Oh dear, I've got 6 seconds. Oh, yeah, magic second. Okay, so this is from a later track in the game. I've had to record this bit again because when I did it originally, the camera was the PSP rather, was starting to slip. And for some reason the camera got very confused about the white balance, and for some reason this track looked like it was at dusk, which is not really the case. But as you can see, it's so narrow. I mean, compared to the earlier tracks, it really does show just how difficult this game gets, because you've got no room to overtake. Even games like Gran Turismo, you can sort of whack into other cars and use them as cushions. Not a great idea, but you can. Whereas this, no, it's not very forgiving. I think the other difference with this game, I suppose, compared to the arcade, is not just the steering, but the accelerator and the brake. Because I remember using the save card, putting, must have been 20-30 quid into the game just because I could keep continuing it and playing it like a home game. And just the stamping on the accelerator and the brake in the game, I remember really hurting my knee at one point and having to limp around for a few days, which is not really advised, but I suppose it's a good sign of really getting into your games. I think if you are on the fence about whether to go for this game, I think the one thing that really does it for me, and I've just looked back over some of the footage, that it really is fast, is as fast as it looks. The sensor speed's great, and you always feel in control. Whereas with some drifting games, you perhaps don't. You can, whack into walls. I think this is quite forgiving in the way it plays. It's, as I said before, it's not like Ridge Racer. You're not being guided around the corners, but if you do hit them, it's quite forgiving. But the other car, on the other hand, isn't. So you've really got to avoid hitting the corners as much as possible, which on these later tracks is not easy. I think I can see the tail end of the car. Oh, there we go. It's just around the next corner. But I think if you're looking for an import game and maybe just for the sake of it, and you're looking for something on the PSP, then I think this is a really good recommendation. I think the thing you might find a little bit tricky is the menu, because it's all written in Japanese. But there is I suppose unless you speak Japanese, that is, or read it rather. But there is a manual that's on the internet as a PDF, and it's a translation, and I think it's done by the developers of the game. So I've got a feeling that this was released in Japan with an eye to it perhaps making its way into Western territories, which I really hope that's the case, because I think that's a really nice way of making games. That you've got Japanese games that are never going to sell in the West, but there'll be a few thousand people that want to play them, and just not putting any region encoding on them for that reason is just brilliant. And I really wish more companies would do that, assuming that's the case. Because with the Saturn games, there were I've harkened on about this plenty of times before, there were a load of games that are really good and never came out in the West. Oh, nearly overtaken him. Oh dear. And thinking, playing, talking. Oh, I might even win. But yeah, these games, I would have enjoyed them in the West, and I'm sure a lot of other people would. And I think it's a real step forward if manufacturers are starting to do this and just accept that there may be a few sales in the West. Right, I'll leave it there. So my recommendation clearly is it's a really good game, and I'm really glad I had this bought for me for my birthday. And I think if you are a fan of racing games, Toge games, imports, anything like that, I think you'll find something in this game. Right, so after all that, thank you for watching.